Welcome back to This Day Live, the Sunday talk show here on the Arise News channel. Today, I have with me already in the studio Professor David Aworawo, a professor of International Relations and Strategic Studies at the University of Lagos, and Yemi Adamolekun, Executive Director in Office Enough. We're still expecting Mr. Jide Ologun and also Professor Anthony Kila. They will join us in due course. But thank you for arriving early. But we've had two guests. We had a session with Dr. Boniface Chizia, who was talking essentially about the Article 4 consultation report of the IMF in Nigeria, with the IMF saying, look, Nigeria is doing well in terms of reforms, but to upscale is the challenge. And IMF made a number of recommendations. So we just basically looked at those recommendations: fiscal policy side, monetary policy side, social spend, infrastructure, human capital development, and why Nigeria must increase domestic revenue. Those were some of the things the IMF talked about. And then we had also on the program Dr. Diron Fawibe, an oil and gas expert, focusing specifically on the statement by the CEO of the NNPCL about the moribund refineries in Warri, Port Harcourt, and Kaduna, and he's saying that they will not rule out any option, including selling off those refineries. These are refineries on which the Nigerian government has spent about $2 billion, or even more. Or is it more than that?
Dangote said 18.
Well, or is it 18, he said?
That's in the past.
In the past, not recently.
Yeah, he was
over
referring
time.
to between 2007 and now.
But they're still not working.
And he says, well, he doesn't even think that these refineries can ever work again. So those are the two issues so far that we have discussed. Let me start with you. Yes, Prof.
Yeah, yes, regarding the economy, we can see what is happening and the direction that the economy is headed. We can also see the efforts of government, the struggles of the government and all that. I think the IMF report and advice is factual. It's based on, yes, it's factual. Several times the IMF will just come up with some recommendations towards, that will have no consideration for, Nigerians, as if Nigerians are not part of, or should not be part of, the economic arrangement. But this time, it's factual. And there are also specifics that the government needs to pay attention to, for the economy to be alive again, so to speak. To my mind, mistakes were made in some of the way the policies have been pursued. For instance, the fuel subsidy removal, I've said this several times, should have taken a different path than what the government did. But I haven't said that. The government needs to take that the report seriously, because those who are close to the president, they tend to just want to say what the president will hear from what we can see, the way the policies, are articulated and then implemented. Now we are having an organization, a body that is, independent, and that has done a very fair and factual analysis and presented, a set of recommendations. The advice would be that the government this time should deviate from the usual pattern of dismissing anything that is not in line with what the government is doing, or that does not say that the economy is doing very well. They should look at those recommendations and then use the information presented as a guide moving forward. There are several other areas that the government needs to pay more attention to. Industrialization, for instance. There is not much that is happening there, and it is key to Nigeria's economic transformation, industrialization. And of course, I'm happy also that the report mentioned human capacity development. These days, it's not even those who have factories that are even at the top. They are those who have skill. And the government also, of course, needs to pay more attention to fintech. Those are areas where countries are making rapid progress in economic development. Countries that focus on this, of course, in addition to the focus on agriculture, which the government has been on in the past year or so. So my advice, my conclusion on this is that the government should take that report, take a look at it very carefully, and see aspects of it that they can implement, and so that, of course, the reforms they are carrying out can have can achieve the objectives that are set out. Then for NNPC, well, what has happened to NNPC gives us an idea as to how Nigeria has been governed. Like you pointed out when Dr. Fayube was speaking, 2007, the refineries were sold $750 million by the Obasanjo government. Yar'Adua came and reversed it. Oh, this is a national asset and all that, reversed it. The question which you ask is that, what study was carried out by the Yar'Adua government to warrant the decision to reverse the sale of the refineries at that time? Because from that time till now, tens of billions of dollars have been spent. The last one was almost $3 billion, the last one. Before this time, we have had, the past 10 years, the past almost 20 years, government spending so much, billions and billions of dollars. That is what we hear. In fact, it's disturbing because we are talking about billions of dollars. There are very few countries in the world where you'll be hearing this kind of figure, billions of dollars. You can imagine what all of this money will have meant in education, in health, even in translation I'm talking about. What, this money will be able to achieve. But all of that has gone down the drain. Like you pointed out as well, in November they said the Port Harcourt refinery was technically ready. They started some razzmatazz. That's how we call it now, we're looking back. And then just a few weeks ago, they said, we have to shut down because, in fact, midway they were saying they don't even have some facility for some cracking, some fracking, some technical difficulty. They can't do all of it. And so, but the billions, the money, where is the money? The money is gone. So the NNPC is like a microcosm of that Nigeria has been administered. Not well administered, so much waste, so much frittering away of resources. Just to conclude, one more thing the government needs to do, because you also spoke about production. Nigeria needs to raise production, oil production, for the economy to be solved, to come up again. Not much. We are still somewhere around 1.5 million barrels per day or something like that, despite all the efforts. And like Dr. Fayube pointed out, it was 2.4 million barrels per day at some point, 2.3, 2.4. Now we are still struggling around 1.5 and thereabout. Let me ask a final question talking about the NNPC. What is it that prevented the government from putting in place what other countries have put in place to check oil theft? Because apart from all of these things they are doing, one major reason is oil theft. I'm from Nigeria, I know what is happening. Oil theft is vast. It's taking like maybe 400,000 barrels of oil per day from Nigeria on a daily basis. Countries have digitized this thing. Technology has helped to track every drop of oil that is produced in other countries. Why has Nigeria shied away from adopting that technology so as to be able to prevent oil theft? That is my proposal for government, and I hope someone will listen. Okay, let's bring Yemi Adamolekun into the conversation. Maybe she will be able to answer some of those proposals that you have raised. Not on behalf of government, though.
Certainly not. But as a citizen looking outside in, what is consistent is just dishonesty. From Occupy Nigeria in 2012, turnaround maintenance became sort of more public lingo because that was what Diazani, the then Minister of Petroleum, was talking about, and there was a promise made of maybe 6 months that the refineries will be up and working. Fast forward 13 years, NNPC has now gotten to the point where they're saying, well, we might not be able to turn around the refineries that we own. And then to the point our guest made, that the fact that as far back as under President Obasanjo's regime, he had decided that, let's stop wasting time and money. Let's sell these things and let a private person who is in the business of making money figure out how to make these things work. And I think to your point, Professor Aworawo, it would be interesting to know what led to his decision to reverse it. Has now reversed it, And then fast forward, and we're still here. So again, my point goes back to the fact that we continue to be dishonest about the decisions that we make and the reasons why. And what the refineries have then been in the years in between is just a slush fund of money. We're paying people not to work. We're siphoning, looking for missing monies now. So SERAP, for example, has gone to court, and this is based on the 2021 Auditor General's report of NNPC, saying that 825 billion naira and $2.5 billion are missing. Now, these were monies deducted from the sale of crude oil and gas because they were deducted for maintenance. So you deducted all this money, but what you deducted it for does not work or is not working. Meanwhile, nobody is being has been held accountable for it. No one has been probed. So the thing that I am actually happy about is that finally, Mr. Ojulari leading NNPC is, in a sense, telling Nigerians what I guess we've always known, that the thing is just a cesspot of losing money. So if we then sell it, it'll be interesting to see what an independent valuator who wants to make money out of it will think of it. And as I say that, I say it'll be very interesting as well if this selling is transparent. We just got rid of, not just, a few years ago that we privatized our power assets. The theories of those who were, I'm not in the space, but the theories of those who were in the space were that those who won the bids had no technical capacity to take over power plants. And so we've seen that in the struggle of also them being profitable, we're increasing tariffs and blah, and blah, and blah. But if we are selling these refineries, it would be nice to see a transparent process that anybody can bid for. And we're not hearing stories of the person that won Port Harcourt refinery is somebody's brother, somebody's cousin, somebody's son, somebody's in-law, as we see when we're trying to privatize national assets. And in fairness to NLC, who is very close about not privatizing national assets, the same thing with fuel subsidy from 2012. The issue was you're penalizing Nigerians for government dishonesty and theft. Because at the time, the story was there are too many loopholes in the subsidy value chain. And so because of that, let's stop subsidizing fuel for the rest of Nigerians. Maybe one person went to jail, maybe, in that whole let's investigate. So it will be interesting to see what NNPC finds when they arrive at if they want to sell or not. And again, to your point, Professor Aworawo, it is also interesting, the Port Harcourt one, when it was shut down in May, first of all, December, the fairity of we're now fully, the words used by NNPC, and you can check, it's still on their website, because I checked before the show. The statement NNPC issued in December 2024 is that the Port Harcourt refinery is, I quote, fully functional. How is something that's fully functional in December come to May needs to be shut down for maintenance for 1 month, and right now we're in the middle of its second month of shutdown, and now we're talking about selling it? That should paint a picture of where we are. And on the reforms, policies are made for people. And so we can talk about, and it's always interesting when IMF says we're doing good, headline news. When IMF says we're doing bad, we say they don't know what they're talking about. So, but let's park that. Reforms are for people. And at the end of the day, the true merit of the reforms of this administration is how it's making people's lives better or worse.
Well, Mr. Ologun, thank you for joining us. But before I come to you, we have a breaking story. The family of the former president has announced the passing on of the former president, Muhammad Buhari, GCFR, this afternoon in a clinic in London. May Allah accept him in Al-Jannatu Firdaus. Ameen. Signed, Garuba Shehu. That's the breaking news. We extend our condolences to his family. We take a short break, and when we come back, I would like you to make a comment on the passing of the elder statesman, General President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR. We take a short break. In honor. Well, we just broke the news of the passing of President Muhammadu Buhari, who died this afternoon in London. He was 82 years old, having been born in December 1942. I think he was Nigeria's president from 2015 to 2023. Before then, he was head of state of Nigeria, 1983 to 1985. Before then, he was minister of petroleum resources. Before then also, he was also known, distinguished himself as a Civil War hero. He fought, he was tested in the field of battle, one of those illustrious sons and stars that the Nigerian army produced. For 8 years, he returned as president, and he made a point that he had transitioned from being a military leader to being a civilian democrat. And there is no doubt that many Nigerians, both of the older generation and of the younger generation, will remember him in and out of uniform in terms of his contributions to the growth and development of Nigeria, to the making of Nigeria. Well, he'll be greatly missed by those who were privileged to have worked with him directly and those who benefited from the impact of his contributions to Nigeria. Well, as I said earlier, we commiserate, we send our condolences to the people of Katsina State, to the Nigerian military, and to the people of Nigeria in general, whom he served for the better part of his life. Yemi, Adamolekun, I'll come back to you, but let me go to Mr. Ologun, who has now joined us. Mr. Ologun.
It's shocking news, and we express our condolences to the nation, the people of Katsina, and not just to Nigerians, but to the Niger Republic also, because while alive, he had a very close tie to the Niger Republic, and he has come, he has fought the battles of life. And it's interesting that even when he was paraded to have died at a time, it was when he was in the hospital in London, and now it has finally ended in London. So we pray that God will grant his repose, eternal rest. It's really, and if you look at some of the discussions going on today, he has also been a major player, particularly in the oil and gas sector. But the sun has set, and we pray that God grants the nation the fortitude to bear the shock of his departure. Those are my words for now.
Okay, Prof. Buhari.
Well, condolences to the family, condolences to people of Daura, condolences to the people of Katsina State, condolences to Nigerians. Maybe condolences to me. I knew him far more closely than, than many know. I've known him since November 1991. I operated in that Daura Funtua axis. One of his closest friends, Alhaji Jack Abdulkadir, who was the chairman of John Holt, was also my closest friend there. He used to come to the man's farm, and then sometimes we'd go to Daura to see him. But I don't know how to run after people. My friend became the Secretary of Agriculture under Shonekon, and it became a bit difficult for me to, see him. Buhari himself too. So I just, so I've known him for a long, long time. When he became president, people were dragging me to go and block him in Abuja and something. That's I don't run after people. So he's someone I would miss personally because I know him fairly closely. Even though when he became president, of course, you couldn't have access to him as previously. He did his best. He did his utmost. He came in New Year Day of 1984. He was overthrown by Babangida 27th of August 1995, so a little over a year at that time. Then, of course, he returned as civilian president in 2015. I think by 2015 he had become, he had lost much of the ability, and I'm not sure he himself even realized it. He himself confessed to that, to say if he had come earlier with better head, more energy, he would probably have done a lot better. But we can only sympathize with family and just highlight his contribution. I mean, Civil War hero, we've stated that. And really, the corruption thing, even though there was a lot of it under his government, but as a person, he seemed to have been very steadfast in trying to distance himself from there. At least those are things we can highlight as far as Buhari and his presidency is concerned. But the broader picture of the 8 years of Buhari administration is another matter entirely. It's not. I'm not sure it's something we should be discussing today. We just focus on the loss to his family, to Daura, to Katsina, to Nigeria in general in his passing.
Yeah, I think I'll definitely take a leave from Professor Aworawo in terms of reviewing his 8 years as president. But it is, notable that he was only the second Nigerian leader to serve twice as a military head of state and also as a civilian leader. I think for me, what stands out for me when I think about him is that when he came in as a civilian leader in 2015, there were high expectations of what he would do. There's popularly said that at airports, officers stopped asking for anything for the boys type language that we used to have. There was a sense that he would come hard against corruption, and people adjusted. And for me, it says a lot for the man. Obviously, there are ongoing conversations as he wasn't, Tunde Diagbon was the much stronger one in their previous coming. But regardless, I think for me, it says a lot around how he was viewed, that just by merely assuming office, there was a message without doing anything, that this is what he stands for. Obviously, the 8 years then proved that to be wrong. But for me, when I think about that, I think about it in the context of how Nigerians know what is right to do. And we just need a leader that can model it in words and in actions, and we will fall in line. And that, for me, was the missed opportunity of President Buhari. But be that as it may, my condolences to his family. It's 82, 92, or 102. Losing a family member is always painful. And so we extend, I guess, on the show, and I extend my condolences to the family. And
also to his political family.
Indeed.
The ANPP, the CPC, and also the All Progressives.
Only Congress. One of the things I wanted to mention, when Garba Shehu, who announced the death that we just read, launched his book last week, I believe, I thought it was very odd that the president, and he said the title has spokesperson, I forget the title of the book, but I thought it was very odd that President Buhari wasn't there. That, how can Garba Shehu be launching a book and President Buhari is not there? And for me, and I'll say this, I thought, Garba might know something that we will find out shortly. And here we are.
And Prof, it's good that you said, well, today is not the day to do an in-depth critical appraisal. In the course of the week, I'm sure there will be more extensive reviews, because those who knew him in his first coming as head of state will probably talk about the Umaru Diko affair, Decree 2, Decree 4, war against indiscipline, and all of that. But that is not for this forum for today. And then, of course, in his second coming, people will talk about Twitter ban, they will talk about so many things. But those are the details. Today, Nigeria mourns as we lose one of our head statesmen. Now, let's come back to you, Mr. Ologun. I wanted you also to comment as briefly as possible on the interventions of Dr. Boniface Chizia and Dr. Diron Fawibe.
Thank you very much. With reference to the Council of IMF, Nigeria has been advised to look at the budget again. The budget benchmark is $75, but right now in the global markets, the price is shaky. And Nigeria is also advised in the realm of experiencing fiscal stability to embark on what is called vital sector funding, which has to do with prioritization and, again, diversified revenue base, since we are still mostly dependent on oil. So we have to look in the direction of non-oil export to earn more, and to see how the reforms that are ongoing, even though commendable, can translate to fighting poverty in the midst of the majority of the population. Because if you look at Section 16 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, the council is that the mandate is that wealth should not be concentrated in the hands of a few. And these are some of the concerns of the International Monetary Fund, and also to cut unnecessary expenditure. You know, sometimes I sit back, look at the indebtedness of Nigeria, and I try to do some mental calculations of how the National Assembly members, how much they earn on a monthly basis, multiply that by 109 in the Senate, 360 in the House of Reps, multiply that by 12 months, apart from the other allowances. You know, how much does it translate to in our budget? How much are we putting into capital investment and recurrent expenditure also? So these are vital issues. But then in consultancy, you talk about making recommendations. It's for those who are recommending to implement. And that brings us to the refinery. And I'm so glad that the new leader, Ojulari, is talking about the refineries strategy, that they are reviewing the whole process entirely. I've said it over the years, and it's of serious concern to me. The first refinery in Nigeria was commissioned in 1965, and we have 4 until date, and we are expected to have managed them in a way that will deliver prosperity to the nation. And I'm tempted to probably answer the question of Professor Aworawo on what has happened to the NNPC. I'll borrow some few words from Honorable Dele Alake, who said that powerful people are behind illegal mining. And you know also that the oil and gas is an extractive sector of the national economic life. So you find that powerful people are plaguing this nation with their greed. And that is why it appears that even though there is a provision in Section 15, subsection 5 of our Constitution that the nation shall abolish corrupt practice and abuse of office, it has become difficult. And it's a good thing. And the big question also may be who is buying. You know, we can suspect who is buying, because he bought before he was denied appropriating that investment. It was reversed, but he has shown the world now that if you can handle it, we can handle it. So, but what Ojulari has said is that it is part of the consideration, so there is no conclusion to sell refineries. But looking at the fact that the government may not have business in business, it may be profitable for the nation to move in that direction and stop the pain of having the nation pay for the inefficiency, the corruption, and the crude oil gap and scam in that sector, according to the review that is ongoing. So I think it will be profitable if we can find a way of converting that liability to a pseudo asset for the nation. So those are the issues. So by and large, IMF or refineries strategy is to reposition us on the path of prosperity, which we most deserve as a nation.
Yemi, what do you think on the issues?
I mean, you've raised the issues. I think your summary would be the best one for me. That if you look at the Trump side, he wants to be the world president and dictate how people engage and how he engages with people. However he feels, there's a popular thing that's said about him that I forget, that he'll basically see something, tackle. Trump announces and then cops out.
Trump always chickens
out, exactly.
Tackle.
Yeah, so I think that's a really good summary of the type of person he is. And a world leader cannot be a chicken. And so if you continue to behave like a chicken, then slightly problematic. And then on the African side, I do agree also with Ambassador that he did pick people who would seem to be weak and would kowtow to him. And it's, it is very interesting. It's obviously definitely a bad look and very, very embarrassing. But given, and I guess maybe the good thing would be the leaders get the feedback from the continent that you did not represent us well and you went there looking very whatever. But on a lighter note, it is really nice to see the Minister of Foreign Affairs with a bit of humor in his statement and his referencing Flavor Flav. But also on Twitter today, author Lola Shoneyin then asked him to list his top 10 songs from that era, and he obliged. So if you go on the Foreign Minister's Twitter page, you will see his list from that era, including, in addition to Public Enemy, including Missy Elliott, Dr. Dre, I believe, Snoop Dogg, which was, so on a lighter side, it's good to have a Minister of Foreign Affairs. It's personable, I guess, would be my summary. But something to add to this, there's an AI video circulating that of the Liberian president basically talking tough around his interaction with Trump. But what's interesting is the Liberian government hasn't distanced themselves from it. Trump's admin hasn't also picked up on it. So I think there's a very interesting understanding of what Trump did, how Liberia's AI version is responding, and how the world is having an interesting review of that interaction.
Okay, Prof.
Yeah, those three issues very quickly. The first has to do with the visa, visa review that the U.S. has carried out, which now provides for just single entry 3 months to the U.S. I don't think that is good. It's not good for improvement of relations. It's a long, long time when we remember anything like this, happening between Nigeria and the U.S. And if the U.S. is talking about improving relations, this is not how to do it. But there's some confusion in the whole thing. The initial explanation was that Nigeria had also done same to say, oh, Americans coming to Nigeria, only single entry, and then Nigeria was interested in $168 that they were paying and all that. But the federal government has come to say that multiple entry of Americans to Nigeria is still there. So one could not speak of reciprocity. But the U.S. government has come to say it has nothing to do with reciprocity or membership of BRICS or whatever, but like just about review of security and all that. We wish that the United States government would take a review and reverse things to where they were before now. I'm not sure the American government really has anything concrete to gain, except in creating the condition for frosty relations with Nigeria by such acts. I don't see what the U.S. government really stands to gain. The second and the third are linked. The second issue and the third issue. One of them has to do with the visit of these African leaders to the U.S. Yeah, like you said, I just wonder why African leaders continue to go there to humiliate themselves. When Ramaphosa went, I said it here that I would have expected him to be firmer than he did. So I would say, oh, it was in the spirit of Ubuntu that he was, that's how they expect him to behave. But for me, you have to be effective. If Ubuntu is not effective, you need something, higher than Ubuntu. I would have preferred that. And these five that went, I'm surprised. They couldn't even draw attention to the interests of their states. Boakai kept on saying, oh, your America First policy, I support it, I like it, I cherish it. And it's really surprising. But Boakai is 80. He will be 81 in November. He's surprised. He was born in 1944, November 1944. At that age, what you still stand to lose? That you cannot stand your own, hold your own. And that meeting, they didn't quite even manage to tell Trump to, draw attention to what the U.S. should do that will improve their various economies. They just went on an exercise in pre-sinking Trump. Anyway, we hope also that the U.S. will have a more comprehensive program, that would enhance relations between Africa and the U.S., not just handpicking a few countries and just focusing on it. Then finally, the refugee thing. When I look back, I'm happy that President Tinubu didn't attend when they invited these five African leaders who were saying that, oh, Nigeria has been left behind. President Tinubu was not in. Because if he had gone, would he have praised Trump the way others did? We would have been embarrassed if he did that. And if he didn't, that would have further worsened relations between Nigeria and the U.S. So, it was just good that he didn't go. And then this refugee thing, it's an insult. Trump needs to read more about the world. First, the comment, he has to care. He's America. He's a leader of. If he doesn't care, he will further embarrass himself.
But do you think feels embarrassed.
If he doesn't feel, I know Americans do. I have friends in the US.
Some Americans do. Some
Many
like it,
Americans
some
do.
like it too.
So, you speak beautiful. Because his thought was that this man must be educated. The US is where the war begins and ends with Trump. And that should not be the case.
Make America great again.
No, that should not be the case. Anyway, so we hope that, Nigeria will stand firm. We can't take any of such. In fact, it's an insult to us. The world's biggest black nation to now become a third country taking prisoners. No.
Okay. Let me start from the. Let me talk about the world perception. To the Americans, America is the world. The fastest runner must be an American before they realize there are some in Kenya. So for Trump, from the way he even asked the Liberian president, where did you learn to speak English this beautifully, it shows the mindset of Trump. But I dug deeper into what is playing out. If you see what is going on with the diplomacy club of BRICS, talking about Brazil, Russia, China, and it's beginning to be a threat to the American economic power, because there is also an attempt to ridicule the strength of the dollars with all the tariff warfare that Trump is embarking upon. And that may address why he's now trying to reach out, because specifically he offered an alternative to the China influence that we are beginning to experience in Africa. So as far as Trump is concerned, he didn't invite those who will come and challenge him. He invited those who will support his resource diplomacy. And because, of course, if he invited Nigeria, like Prof said, maybe the response given in respect of the visa reciprocity would have been given to him that, hey, so these are issues we must consider. But the beauty of it all is that it's a wake-up call for African leaders. In fact, the president of Gabon went back home wearing the face cap of Make America Great and dancing before his people. So we need to really launder our mindset and perception about greatness. To know, I've said it, 40% of the total resources in the world, God has deposited in Africa. So why should we remain where we are? So I hope that leadership will wake up one day and begin to approach from the angle of strength.
Thank you, Mr. Ologun. I was still on the late President Muhammadu Buhari. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has announced the death of his predecessor, Muhammadu Buhari. According to a statement released by his special advisor, Bayo Ononuga, the president says Buhari died on Sunday at about 4:30 p.m. after a prolonged illness. Ononuga said President Tinubu spoke by telephone with the former First Lady, Aishat Buhari, to offer his deep condolences to the family. The president has, however, directed Vice President Kashim Shettima to leave immediately for the United Kingdom to accompany President Muhammadu Buhari's body back to Nigeria in honor of the late leader. We'll now take a quick break to bring you a playback of the last exclusive interview Arise News Channel had with former Nigerian President, late Muhammadu Buhari.
It's a privilege to be with the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Being hosted this morning by the Arise News Channel. We are engaging the President on the future of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and what to expect over the next 2 years of his administration. Mr. President, thank you very much for hosting us.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. President. The nation is witnessing rising insecurity, banditry, arson, kidnapping. How did we get here? What's the way out?
When we came, it has been a very difficult undertaking. But we closed the borders with Benin Republic. We closed the borders with Niger Republic. We stopped smuggling. We asked Nigerians to grow what they will eat and eat what they grow. the cost of importation of rice and other foodstuff, we stopped it. We made fertilizer available, and we were very impressed and happy with the reaction of Nigerians. They went back to the farm. And we made sure our neighbor, especially Nigeria, understand us, because there are Nigerians that order food in Niger for Nigerian market. The Nigerian government cooperated with us. So really, we defended on ourselves, and Nigerians do not regret it. Corruption is very difficult under this system, even under the military system. Luckily, I have experienced both occasions. When I collected people, put them in Kiriki or somewhere and said they are guilty until they can prove themselves innocent, and put investigation panels based almost on the geopolitical zone for people that held positions, governors, ministers, commissioners, heads of parastatals, because then people don't get that position until they declare their assets. Then they are faced with the bank statements and their assets. If they cannot explain, the balance is taken away from them. But what happened? Eventually, I myself was arrested, detained, and they were given back what they have looted. So that's why I wear Agbada and join and see what this partisan politics is all about. I will not change, but the system here, those who have the money, they can take sons, first-class lawyers. Cases will take 10 years. And doing things with immediate effect was not possible. But I assure you that in spite of the problem we are having with the system, whoever we have correct intelligence that he's not being very accountable, we ease him out. We don't give it too much publicity. But I assure you that those who are responsible, who are holding responsible positions, know that we don't tolerate corruption.
Well, at this point, we draw the curtain onto this edition of This Day Live, the Sunday Talk Show. Thank you, Yemi Adamolekun, Professor Aworawo, and Mr. Jide Ologun. You've been watching This Day Live, the Sunday Talk Show, here on Arise News. I'm Ruben Abati. From my entire team here in Lagos, it's bye for now, and thank you very much for watching.